Well, hello, boys and girls. How are you today? Are you having a nice day? I hope so. This is Mr. Ruson, of course. I don't know why I keep telling you my name. You know my name already. But again, Mr. Bruson. And we are here to do another science lesson. For the last few lessons, we did a review because we're getting ready for the benchmarks. But we have to move on to new knowledge. Maybe you have already some of that knowledge that you have heard from movies or from videos, like nature videos, or from your teacher, or from books that you have read. But anyways, it is new for us in fourth grade, and we are going to be discussing our planet, Earth. The planet where we live on, the only one we know that can support life. So it's going to be all about our planet and what it is made of. But anyways, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let's look at the learning target. So the learning target is I can explain the composition of the Earth, especially concentrating on the top layer, okay? So the composition of the Earth, what it is made of. Like if I asked you, what is the composition of lemonade? You would have to say lemon, water, and sugar, right? That is the composition of lemonade. If I ask, what is the composition of cake dough? You would say, well, flour, eggs, butter, sugar. So that is the composition, what it is made of. So we're going to be concentrating today on the top. Well, I think I'm getting ahead of myself again. Let me stop right there, and I'm going to ask you to do something. If you have access to this document, the one that says before and after doc, I want you to open that, okay? If you don't have access to that, then what I want you to do is I want you to work in your notebook, and on one side you put before. So you're going to do a T-chart, okay? On one side it says before, and on one side it says after. So I just want you to work on the before side, okay? So what do you know, okay? What do you know about the composition of our planet Earth? What do you know? Write everything that you know, anything that you have heard, that you have seen, that you have read about the composition of the Earth, okay? So write as much as you can. What do you know right now about the composition of our planet? What it is made of, okay? And now, boys and girls, it's the time to share with your classmates what are those things that you know about our planet, what our planet is made of, okay? So time to share. I had to put my mask on because Mr. King is here in the classroom, so we have to be safe, okay? So time to share. So I have a question for you. What is the shape of our planet? What is the shape of planet Earth? What is the name of that shape? Okay, is it a circle? Can you say round? Well, that doesn't really describe that shape. So what is the shape that is like a ball, like a basketball or a baseball or a soccer ball? What is that shape? Do you remember the name? That's right, it is a sphere. It is a sphere. Let's look at some figures that are spheres, okay? So here are some spheres. Look at that, spheres. Okay, there you go. All right. I have another question for you. Is a sphere 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional? So is it 3D or 2D, a sphere? Do you know? 3-dimensional or 2-dimensional? So a 2-dimensional figure doesn't have any depth, okay? It is, I don't want to say flat, but yes, it is flat. It's like a drawing on a paper, right? It's like a circle drawn on a paper. Like this circle, that's 2-dimensional, right? There is no depth to it. That's 2-dimensional. But 3-dimensionals have thickness. They have depth. Okay, they are not just a circle drawn on a paper or a square drawn on a paper. A 3D figure would be these figures. You see, they have depth. They're not just flat on a paper. So my question to you again is a sphere 3D or 2D? Is it 3-dimensional or 2-dimensional? You got the answer? All right, yes, it is 3D. It is a 3-dimensional figure. So our planet is 3-dimensional. It's not something drawn on a paper. It has depth, right? And the reason that I'm asking this question is because remember our learning target. Let's look at it one more time. I can explain the composition of the Earth, especially concentrating on the top layer. So we need to look inside, okay? We need to look inside to see what the Earth is made of. And we're going to be discussing the top layer. We're going to be learning about that top layer. So that's why I needed to make sure that you understood that a sphere is 3-dimensional. So let's look at this picture here. So it's a peach, right? It's sort of like a sphere, not a perfect sphere, but we could say that it is a sphere. And the one in front, we cut that peach, right? So we can see the inside of the peach. We can see the color, we can see the seed inside, right? And that's exactly the way that we want to think about our Earth. If we could cut it in half, okay, to look inside, I want you to use this image in your head, okay, as reference. It would be something like that peach. So if you were able to cut the Earth like that, just like we cut that peach, if you were able to do that, what would you see inside? What do you think? Now, this is your time to sort of, you might have a little bit of knowledge in your brain about that from something that you have seen in the past or heard or read. But let's just sort of guess. What if we cut the Earth in half, what would you see inside? What would it look like, okay? So take a couple of minutes and write down exactly what you think we would see if we cut the Earth in half like that peach. Okay, so now it's your time to share what you wrote. What do you think you will see if you were able to cut the Earth in half? So time to share with your classmates, okay? Okay, so that's what you think is there, but let's now look at what's actually there, because that's our target today. We need to see what our planet is made of, what's inside, what are we standing on, right? So let me show you quickly a diagram, okay, of the way that we think, that we are pretty sure, okay, that this is the way that the Earth looks inside if we were able to cut it, okay? So let me show you that. Okay, see that? So you can see that there is sort of like a thin layer. You see that thin layer over here? All around it, I mean, yes, in that diagram it's very thin, In reality, of course, because the Earth is much bigger than that diagram, it is thicker than that, but it is the thinner of all the layers, okay? So that one is called the crust. And that would make sense, right? Because it's the top layer. And then look at this one over here, the next one. It's pretty thick. That's called the mantle, okay? There is another one that is not too thick, it's not too thin. It's called the outer core. And we have sort of like a little sphere in the center, right? And what do we call that? That's the inner core, okay? Now, our job is to actually look at each one of those layers and see what the material is that they're made of. Is it hot? Is it cold? Just look in detail at each layer. But today, we're only going to concentrate on the outer layer, which is called what? Remember? We just looked at it. That's right, the crust. Okay? Like the crust of a pie is what's on the surface, what's on the outside, right? The crust. I'm going to look specifically at that. But you might be asking yourselves, Mr. Rasan, and who has been inside our planet to know that this is the way that it looks? Who's done that? Have we been able to actually open a hole here in the United States or in China and go all the way to the other side? Is that how we know? No. That's not the way that it has happened. But scientists study the sun, meteorites. Scientists look at different rocks, when there are volcanoes, when there are earthquakes, and we have been able to figure out what the planet looks like inside. Now, we're not 100% sure, but we are 99.999% sure that that's the way that our planet looks inside, okay? In your notebooks, as we do the different lessons, I want you to be able to explain, to describe, to truly understand each layer, okay? So today it's the crust, so I want you to write crust. And let's see what are all the things that we can learn about the crust, about the outermost layer of our planet Earth. There is an article that I want you to read, okay? So you're either going to open that yourselves. It is titled Earth's Crust, right here, Earth's Crust document. Or your teacher might open it for you, okay? But you're going to have to do that on your own. There are a lot of facts about Earth crust. And I want you to find about 5 things, okay? If you can do more, well, do more about Earth's crust. And you write that in your notebooks. Because we need to, today, we need to be very clear about understanding, okay? Being able to explain everything about Earth's crust. And you're going to find a lot of information there. So go ahead and open that document, read it, and take your notes. Pretty interesting, huh? Did you imagine that the Earth was going to be like that? It kind of reminds me of like a cake with different layers, or a fruit, or like an egg sometimes. But you just cut it. It's just made up of a bunch of things. I never think of that. Now, this is just Earth. This is just the planet we live in, or we live on. But we never think about what is inside. So let's make a list. I have a little list here. I'm sure you do too. So let's make a list of a few things that we've learned about the crust, which is the outermost layer of the planet. The first thing that I wrote here is that it is the thinnest layer, okay? The thinnest layer. So for number 2 here, I put that it is the outermost layer. So you should do that too. So the thinnest, the outermost. For number 3, I wrote that it is on top of the mantle. It is important to know that too, and you will see why. What can we say about the temperature of the crust? What can we say about the temperature? Is it cold? Is it hot? Well, this is what I wrote. The temperature increases as we get deeper. So as we dig deeper in the crust, it gets hotter. Now, I'm not talking about a little hole, okay, that we make with with a shovel, okay? It's not like that. Well, you got to get super deep in the crust to find that temperature difference, okay? To actually see that it's getting hotter, or to feel that it's getting hotter. And in the article, did you notice number 3 that said plate tectonics? Did you notice that? Plate tectonics. Well, actually, that's going to be next lesson, okay? But if for today we can just write that the crust has individual plates, okay? Individual plates. So the way that I wrote it is that the crust is made up of large plates, okay? So let's not think of plates as like dishes. Let's just think of big pieces, okay? So the crust is made up of big pieces. And I'm not going to tell you much about that one because our next lesson is going to be really digging deeper into this plate, into these big pieces. Okay, so throughout this lesson, we've really found out that the Earth is made of different layers, and we have looked in detail to the top layer, which is the crust. So now I want to do 1 or 2 questions to check your understanding. For this question, I didn't write it down when I was writing the different characteristics of the crust, but you should have read it. So it says, which layer of the Earth is made of rocks and soil? Rocks and soil. Okay, so is it the crust, the core, the mantle, or the shell? Well, first of all, we didn't look at a layer that is called the shell, but we did look at mantle, core, and crust. So which one is made up of rocks and soil? That's right. It is the crust. Let's look at another question. For the next question, we didn't really talk much about this, but you should be able to get this from information that you have gathered in the past and also from making sense of what the crust is. So let's look at this question. Which term describes the 7 land masses that make up most of the dry land on Earth? So these masses are on the crust, okay? Is it the atmosphere, the continents, the hydrosphere, or the lithosphere? So what are those land masses? And land is the key word here. That's right, right here. It is the continents. The continents are on the crust of the Earth. All right, so we've come to the end of the lesson. Tomorrow or the next lesson, whenever you do it, is going to be about plate tectonics. Okay, it's more about these big pieces of crust, okay, and what they are, how they were formed, what happens when they collide. Oh, no, I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyways, so I hope you have a great day. Remember that science is everywhere. Look for it, and I will see you next time. All right, bye-bye.